And so it is in what the Greeks call Paideia, P-A-I-D-E-I-A. That's the best of Brown University. Paideia, that deep education, not that cheap schooling. And that deep education is about learning how to die by critically examining yourself and letting go certain assumptions and presuppositions, certain dogma and doctrine that no longer facilitate your quest toward maturity, no longer facilitate your quest toward a more critical view about the world, a more compassionate way of being in the world. And it is a perennial and endless process of learning how to die in order to learn how to live well. And love, truth, goodness, and love of beauty. And Rilke is right. He says beauty is fundamentally tied to trauma and tear. And somehow you've got to transfigure your suffering tied to your wounds and bruises and unbelievable scars, so that you emerge not just as an agent. I know agency is a very popular word in the last 40, 45 years among the academic chattering classes. Just like bodies now is very popular these days. What do you think about the black bodies, Brother Webb? Oh, I've had one for 64 years, but I never put it that way. There's a lot of memories in this body. There's a lot of thoughts in this body. There's a lot of arguments in this body, a lot of stories in this body, a lot of narratives in this body, a lot of stuff in this body that language can't even come close to. I haven't got to the love of my grandmother yet. You think this body could exist without her, given what she did for me? Don't reduce me to my body. I'm a free black man. And that's rare. If you're a free black man, you have attempted to thoroughly deniggerize yourself. And every aim and end of the dominant powers for so long is to niggerize black people and keep black people so scared and intimidated, laughing when it ain't funny, scratching when it don't itch, trying to adjust yourself. You end up well adjusted to injustice and well adapted to indifference. Some of us want to be free. And that's a rare thing. That's why we go to the musicians. Artists are the vanguard of the species. I believe musicians are the vanguard of the artists. Because we get a taste of the freedom when Sam Cooke sings I Send You. You get a taste of the freedom when James Brown says, Clyde Stepperfield, get the drummer song, hit it now. And that's not entertainment. That's being a love warrior. And a love of truth and a love of freedom, given the inability of being free in the structures and institutions. You can be free enough in your soul and in your mind. And that's a rare thing. And we're seeing this more and more among black folk, especially among the black middle classes, especially among the black professional managerial classes, where they've been told for the last 40 years, to be free is to be successful. To be free is to go to the highest levels of the American empire and let the other black folk live vicariously through your success. No, success is one thing. Greatness is something else. Success is one thing. Freedom is something else. Thank God that Curtis Mayfield wasn't obsessed with success. He never would have written his music. Don't show up at the rallies. He said, no, I'm showing up with my guitar. And I tuned it only based on the black keys on the piano. And that was not an ethnic statement he made. It wasn't a racial statement. His grandmother, who was an evangelist, taught him to play his guitar based on the black notes, because she played piano on the black notes. I said, well, she's always in the minor key. Well, the blues sensibility cuts deep. And I know y'all taught that wonderful class on the blues people. Living in the dissonance. Staying there, lingering in the minor key, but refusing to opt for revenge tied to justice, refusing to opt for hatred tied to love of self, of others, of truth, of goodness, of beauty, and for some of us, love of the holy. No, that's too abstract. Love of God. Not too popular. in the secular academy. That's all right. That's fine. Love my secular brothers and sisters. They just have a different view of the God question. Most of them are adorable rejectors of dominant conceptions of God. Because if most of the conceptions of God were the only available ones in churches, mosques, and synagogues, I'd probably be an atheist too. Given the institutional religion and its accommodations, the forms of barbarism and atrocity and bestialities, the history of the Christian church so tied to hatred of Jews and Arabs and gays and lesbians and bisexual and trans and poor peoples and so forth and so on. Institutional religion getting in the way so often, like most of our so-called mainstream institutions, but thank God, in universities, you have a openness to the dialogue. So even when you read your canon, you got to start in the West with Socrates. Ooh, that's unsettling. Don't skip the moment of the hemlock. Don't skip the moment of the condemnation. Don't skip line 24a of Plato's Apology when he says parrhesia, fearless speech, plain speech, frank speech, unintimidated speech is the cause of my unpopularity. Ooh, how unsettling. How you gonna domesticate him? How you gonna sanitize him? How you gonna sterilize him? Same is true of Amos and Esther and Isaiah in Hebrew scripture. Same is true with a Palestinian Jew named Jesus, put on a cross by the Roman Empire, crushed, thought that somehow his rinky-dink love movement would be pushed to the side, and just a few years later, there's only 1,000 of folk who say they had anything to do with him. It's not until the imperial Christendom emerges that, lo and behold, the Christians become center stage. And you lose so much of the subversive message and example, so easily done by institutions with their bureaucratic routines and the difficulty of focusing on what does it mean to learn how to die, as opposed to what does it mean to get a job. Now, I'm not against folk getting jobs now. Just like I'm against the code of smartness doesn't mean I'm pro-stupidity. But if you confuse your vocation with your profession, if you conflate your task with just your day job, your life task with just your day job, then you're missing out on Paideia.